Isn't our piano player great? We had that nice media presentation there, supported by a little shoebox, and our piano player was wonderful today. So I wanted to thank you all for attending, and I know it's an emotional time. So today, I wanted to thank all the great people that stepped up to say a thought or two about Jim Mastrino, and I want to thank everyone here today for accepting my presence as well. A lot of these funerals, a lot of these times that we say goodbye to people, they're just inconvenient. Some people aren't notified. Some people are far away. Some people are not in the state mentally to attend. But the best part about this presentation, this opportunity, is everyone can be present and remain seated, because of course I'm seated here in this presentation, in this moment, to recognize Jim Mastrino. San Pellegrino. Let's begin in just a moment. So, Jim wanted me to be here. He gave me a message. He's with us in spirit. And when do you ever get a chance to have a presentation or be present? Perhaps you're in the comfort of your home. It feels like we're in church, doesn't it? It feels like we're saying goodbye, doesn't it? Well, we get to say goodbye when everything is addressed, and that's the best part about all of you speaking today. You got to say a few words of, to send off Jim Mastrino with a fond farewell. And sometimes, maybe they save the best for last. And let's begin. I hope you find value in this, and I don't know if it's the best, but it's the last. And let's begin. So Jim's message that he gave to me, he wanted me to give it to you. You see, there's a lot of you that are maybe attending here today, this celebration of Jim's life, and I've never met you. We've never met each other. And Jim wanted me to let you know a little something. He didn't want you to know while he was here. He didn't want us to meet each other while he was here. But he wanted me to send you a message, and that was the best part. This opportunity with his passing gives us a chance to meet each other. It gives us to subtract the emotion or the politics in a family if all people were present, and maybe some people were allowed to speak or others who weren't allowed to speak. In the most beneficial part is we get to have this conversation, not because of any of you initiating it, just because Jim wanted me to tell you this. Jim wanted me to share this information with you. Jim wanted this as his legacy. Jim wanted you to know that this is what will be spoken about him after he's gone. This is his legacy. So, to begin, Jim wants you to know, all of you nieces, nephews, grandchildren, extended family, cousins, in-laws, people that I haven't met, the best part about all of you knowing each other, all of you meeting each other, all of you having celebrations, memories, just great events and milestones along the way, all of those things, Jim wants you to know that those are made possible because of me. Jim wants you to know that. That's why it's been so special for Jim to keep us divided all of these years, all of these decades. Jim gave me a message to give to you. He said, Anthem, don't tell anyone, don't intervene until I'm gone. And so today we get to celebrate Jim's life, his legacy of keeping this disconnect as part of the family culture, and to let you know that all of you that we haven't met, some of you we have, some of us we've known for many years. Some of us are related as siblings, and the best part is you've been so busy. You've been so busy with your lives, and And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Life is to be lived. Life is to be enjoyed. It's not to be endured. And maybe we'll talk about that another time. But today, Jim wants this message through me presented to you to celebrate his life, to celebrate his legacy, to celebrate our history. Our history is one of division, but it's not a bad thing, because through that division over the years, Jim has finally been able to send his message across. And that is, well, first we'll begin with my brothers. Some of you I've spoken with and communicated with, and it's all good. And those that we have communicated with agree and know where this wonderful presentation is coming from, because you do agree that all of the brothers have enjoyed a quality of life because of me. Because of me. I'm not proud of that. I'm not happy about it. Nor do I feel that that is power over one person. It's just a fact. And Jim wanted me to tell you today. Jim Mastrino, who is no longer with us, wanted that message conveyed to you. He wants you to know that everything that you have, everything that you enjoy, and these are not things that I resent. I'm happy that you have these things. You have them because of me. It's true. Now, there might be a little bit of grumble at this point, but some of my brothers, well, actually, all of my brothers would agree with this. I've only spoken with a few of you. And it's not a bad thing, nor do I wish ill will on the people or any of the things, on any of you because of the things that you've been able to enjoy that are all because of me. And we'll explain that in just a moment. You can maybe take a break. There's little cups of water with your take-home bag at the back of the chapel today, because that's where we're at. We're saying our goodbyes in a traditional venue. It might look like this is my office in the background. That's because it's been a while since we've spoken, or quite possibly we've never spoken before. So let's dial that in. I'm going to kind of keep certain brothers out of this, but and that just has to do with age. But let's put it this way: the brothers that I haven't spoken with, your lives, your wives, your children, your homes, your vehicles, your future, your financial come-ups, your abundance, the insulated people around you that don't know any better, your friends, your extended family. But again, back to your wives, that's all because of me. It's all because of me. And you don't have to thank me now. You don't have to thank me now. But if you pause this video, you'll understand. If you want to take a break right now, if that offends you, you're always welcome to leave the church. And the crazy thing about this celebration of life for Jim Mastrino is that he wants you to know this. He wants you to know this. But a lot of people, I would imagine, if you're a little bit upset right now about some of the things I'm saying, what's been stopping you from reaching out? Or if you're just aware of this right now, then pause, take a break, and reflect. Look at the things around you. Look at the women of your dreams, brothers, that you've married. The women that you've married, the children you've had with them, they're all because of me. All the gifts that you give your children, the homes you give to your wives, or to your families, the ring you put on your wife's finger, it's all because of me. And you're welcome. And all of your wives, I want you to feel great. I want you to accept my gifts. Accept my gifts, because remember, one of the brothers, had to take a fall. One of us had to take the fall so Jim Mastrino could learn how to get along in society and treat his sons. But he needed one son that he could put his fists on, that he could get inside their head as a boy, and pretty much abuse from day one. Now, the best part about almost being 50, I think that's just an easy word to use. It maybe captures your attention, but it's very victim-y. It's very victim-y. I don't think you'll see in my eyes that there's anything less than abundance in my life. There's any fear or any resentment about the things that you are enjoying. It's a good thing. My legacy is giving my brothers, their children, their extended families, their wives, the best lives ever. It's because of me. And Jim wants you to know this. Jim Mastrino, who's not with us today, he had a chance to convey this, but he wanted to wait till he was gone so he could tell you these things. And he wants that message delivered through me. So let's just talk about a certain. So let's kick it off with Joe. You know, we might as well kick it off with Joe. Joe is very outspoken. I've seen some very unique videos, and we'll start with Joe. And just as an example of the abundance that he's enjoyed because of myself, some of that abundance, how he's kept it to himself, and how even his wife and his family, extended family, has no idea about this abundance. So Joe, no hard feelings, but it's true. So you see, when I went in the military at 17, it was because I was told that if I didn't, my younger brothers wouldn't have any food. They wouldn't have any money. They wouldn't have any abundance. They would not survive. So I went in the military, and here you are, Joe, today. I saw some lovely videos, very creative videos, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you know, those of us that are earning our keep in life, it's amazing that you found time to make these fun videos. And let's talk about those videos. Those videos feature your mom and dad, Jim, who's here with us in spirit. You know, Jim Mastrino, who's passed on. And those videos are wonderful. They're full of disconnect, unawareness, entitlement, and just very, very strangeness. But here's the best part, Joe, that I guess you think I don't know this. See, because I left for the military, and so you had extra, Jim took that extra, Jim Mastrino took that extra, and used that money, the money that he didn't, you know, remember, I left at 17, and then Frederico moved in, so there was that investment, but the extra money went to you, Joey, and that money went to taking out, expunging your criminal background. Now, I know a lot of people say, uh-oh, what's going on here? These accusations. I might as well put the word alleged in here, but I understand strongly, allegedly, that you got kicked out of school, Joey, because you were breaking into females' cars and stealing their purses. But you didn't have that on your record for your life because your dad paid for it to go away. So when I see your videos and your extended family, they're so celebratory of your victories. I never brought it up before to you. I've known this for many years, but recently I found out that your mother was looking for work, and then I found out what your background is, and I've noticed that you haven't helped her, which is fine. You know, it's not me helping somebody and you should help her. All I want to hear is, and really tighten up here, Joey, is that you have been living a life. I see this big smile on your face. You're enjoying life. That's fantastic. Anyone else that doesn't get their criminal record expunged, it goes, I have no criminal record, so I only know this from what I heard, you know, from people in life that have criminal backgrounds. You can ask around, Joey, people in your life that have criminal backgrounds, and you can ask them if they didn't get their records expunged and how that's affected them today. Well, you had the luxury of getting your criminal background erased, and the crazy part is you're walking around on the planet acting like you're someone who can kind of judge and decide who talks to who in the family, when really you should just be humble and be quiet and tell your family. Because I have a feeling that if the woman in your life knew that you were a punk and that you were an abuser of women, she probably wouldn't have married you. And also, if you took responsibility and you had to live a life where you didn't live at home for 100 years and pay rent and be out there in the world and earn your keep with a criminal background on your record, you would be joining the ranks of the rest of us. It's a small group, but the rest of us that have earned our keep without any family assistance, without any tuck, go away, the background. I'm an open book. People don't like it, but there's no criminal background. So Joey, you're welcome to reach out. You're probably going to start with putting out fires in damage control or whatever you want to call it, because you're a creative person and you might want to tell people, oh, that was when I was very young. Well, it doesn't matter. While you were very young, while I was very young, I was in the military protecting you so you could eat and you can do the thing. And you turned out to be not such a good person after all, because I understand you're very focused on dividing the family, and it's unfortunate. So because of that, Jim's legacy is inviting me to give you this message, Joe. That remember, Joe, and I'll just conclude with you in a second. Joey, remember, you and I were brothers at one time, and I was protecting you after school because mom and dad weren't around, and I started to take those hits so you wouldn't get them. And then somehow, some way, you thought that wasn't just enough. So then when you went off to college, you didn't join the military like some of us, which is great. You thought that wasn't good enough. So you went to college and started to break into women's vehicles to steal their purses, their identities, their money, to harm those individuals, to scar them on campus, to make them feel constantly on edge as they go to a place that their parents are putting them through. So Joey, have you made good on that? Have you ever reached out to those females that you broke into their vehicles and you kind of affected mentally? Have you done that? Because if you haven't, you're not going to get angry. And you're welcome to call me anytime. My phone number hasn't changed in 25 years. Where have you been? I saw you go to Ireland to do a lovely wedding again for another brother of mine whose wife, and again, that's another Mrs. Mastrino, Tim's wife. I'm so glad I gave you that wedding. You're welcome. I'm glad you had that wedding. It looked like it was a blast, and it looked like it was even more joyful with Joey there to document it all. So that's wonderful. So I wanted to, you're welcome for that gift. And again, Jim Mastrino wanted me to tell you that gift was made possible from myself. So let's get Joe off the hot seat for a moment, because he's been in that seat for some time. Paying for your criminal record to be expunged. Well, as long as I'm alive and I know about it, it's not erased in my book. And you haven't made amends on it. If you haven't reached out to the females you broke into their car, and you haven't posted an apology with all of your wonderful media skills, you have no right to sit around gloating. You're traveling the planet, making these very wonderful videos, leaving behind this video dialogue of your legacy, when really you're only able to do that because myself gave you the privilege to do that, and that privilege comes from me stepping up, taking the hits from Jim, so you can go on and become a criminal. So it's interesting, huh? And so Joe, I'll just cool my jets on that. You don't want certain people talking to me because for some reason you're mad, but the people that you're trying to protect, Jim, who wanted me to give you this message, he's not here anymore, so we can talk about it. So no one's being offended. Now that you know that I know that you're a criminal and that everything in your life is because of me, all these gifts that I've given you, don't be mad. Be grateful. Be grateful. Be humble, and be grateful. So we'll come back to you in just a moment. So let's there's really no script here. If you've noticed, I'm looking in the camera eye. I'm not looking at anything else. It doesn't get any more authentic or real than this. And I suited up for this wonderful event today to celebrate the passing of Jim Mastrino. And it goes a little something like this. I met Jim Mastrino in 1972, the middle of 1972, when I was born. And, you wonder, what are your earliest memories? So take a moment, pause the video, think about your earliest memories. And my earliest interaction was maybe about 1.5, 2. I don't have kids like I've given all of you. I've given all of you your children. Remember that. You've had the abundance. You got to go to school. You enjoy those things, and your children get to enjoy their lives because of myself. Again, you're welcome for those gifts, everyone. But because I don't have children, I don't know what the timeline is. But I think a toddler starts to phase out of diapers. Maybe about 1.5, 2, I guess. So my earliest memory with Jim Mastrino, which is a celebration today, is eating cold food, being about 2 years old. I'm going to say it's 2 years old. I don't know if I can remember, if a human can actually remember to the 1.5 year of their life, but I don't know if I wore diapers for 2 years of the beginning of my life. But we had a certain device in the 70s. It was like a little it was like a little chair, and the chair had a commode in it. It was like a little toilet you can put in the middle of the kitchen. It had like a high chair tray on it that clamped in. Had a little belt around it so you couldn't get out. And Jim would expect me to eat cold food, which wasn't good or tasty or whatever those things were. And my pants were around my ankles, so I had to take a shit in order to get out of the chair. So how this worked at night, this is my first interaction with Jim that we're celebrating today. We're celebrating Jim Mastrino today. And my first interaction was being a toddler, I guess. And because I didn't finish my food, I couldn't go to bed. So I would sit in the kitchen, in the dark, in the cold, with my hips frozen against this plastic seat because my legs were numb and my pants were around my ankles and I had no food in my stomach, so I couldn't take a shit. And I was in the dark, hearing my family snore, hearing my family sleep, just watching shadows kind of creeping around in the dark. And I was in the kitchen and I just couldn't get out. I tried to reach my arms around the attachments to free the tray out. I don't know where I would have gone, but I could not do that. My arms weren't long enough. I tried to get my arms inside to reach from within. I couldn't get my arms in because the buttons were to be engaged or disengaged from the inside out. You'd have to pull them from the inside out. There's no way I can get out of the seat. So that was my first experience with Jim Mastrino, who we're celebrating today, which is leaving me in a chair in the middle of the night as a toddler to eat my food, my cold food, and that was it. So that we can multiply that. How much time do we really have on these videos? On these celebrations of life. Excuse me. But that's the introduction. And so I just wanted to let you know that that's how I met Jim Mastrino. I mean, I met him when I was born, but my first interaction with him as a person, or first co-deal was digesting food alone, but I didn't have any food in me to digest because that's how we grew up. No food, minimal supervision, zero guidance, violence, and discord in our family. That is us. That is my upbringing. But the best part is, if it sounds so alien to you, if you can't believe it, that's exactly my gift to you. Because you don't know it, it's because I took it all for you. And that's the message that Jim wants to leave behind. Jim wants his legacy to be known, that his second oldest son, now he did beat the crap out of Jimmy as well, and we'll talk about that in a second. Jimmy can say his own words and speak for himself, and that's a good thing or not. But I'll speak for myself, and that's my interpretation. So that's just from the get-go. Let's get a couple highlights in here. So never really good at math. And why was that? Because Jim decided to not work for his dad and not make a lot of money. He decided to work in banking. He's been in banking for 30, 35, 40 years, never learned how to save any money, but he's in the banking industry. Coincidentally, I'm in lending, and it's interesting. You learn pretty fast. Actually, you learn in lending how to be successful when you put a picture up of your family next to your phone, and when you're on the phone with a client, you say, I'm either selling this client or I'm going to get sold. And if I get sold, my family is not going to eat. Jim never took it that way. Jim never looked at his children as obligations or his duty to take care of. Jim's legacy is to spawn a bunch of kids so he could be a liability and go crawling back to his mommy and daddy for all of the funding that he needed along the way. I mean, the man still has a mortgage in his 70s. So he did until he passed away, excuse me. So anyways, I'll resume back onto my timeline. So growing up and not knowing a lot about just math or generally homework, how I learned was by being slapped in the mouth, or the table being shaken underneath me, or the table being smacked near me if I didn't have my numbers right. So it went a little something like this. What's 7 times 8? And it wasn't 56 when you're a child. It could be 59. And bam! Bam! Don't you know your math? Don't you know your math, Tony? Well, that's not my name. And no child learns how to study or retain or just have a focus if there's a person 10 times their size beating them up. So let's talk about that size. This man used to chase me around the house, hold me down. He'd kneel on my shoulders. This is Jim's legacy. We get to celebrate his life today. He would kneel on my shoulders as a boy, hold my eyelids up open from my skull with the backs of his hands, and dribble spit, saliva from his mouth into my eyeballs. Okay, so that's who we're celebrating today. That's the man, the man that we're celebrating today is Jim Mastrino, who would slap, punch, open-handedly slap, closed fist punch his children because he just didn't like working. And now there's another factor in that, because his wife worked at night, so he didn't want to come home from work. He chose to spawn a bunch of kids, the three of us in the beginning, and didn't want us. But, you know, where could we go? Where could we go at 5 years old? Where could we go at 6 years old? So when you look at your 5 and 6 year old children, these family members of mine, you know, remember the reason why you're not laying hands on them, because no one ever laid hands on you, and the cycle doesn't repeat itself. I took those hits for you. Your family thrives. The family that I gave you is thriving. Those gifts are from myself. And if you have harmony and the conduciveness to study and the ability to share and go over homework with children, it's because of me. It's because you weren't knocked to the ground constantly if you didn't know your arithmetic. But let's continue. So these are just little snapshots. This man was such a deliverer of fear and pain that, you know, it's a very small house. Now let's talk about that house. That house in Elmhurst, 816 North Kenilworth, was a gift from his mommy and daddy. They bought the lot for him. They gave him the down payment, and he still never got out from under it. Now we're going to jump around here in a second. We're going to go back to that house, but I'm not even out of the house yet. And by the way, everyone, before you get angry, let's calm down. Let's remember that at almost 50 years old, I recall these events daily like they just happened 5 seconds ago. Matter of fact, I'm getting like not too cool under the collar as we celebrate the life of Jim Mastrino, the legacy of Jim. It's amazing. He lived a long time. What is his legacy? Well, here, I'll go deeper. So another thing that would happen is, because his wife was working at night and he didn't, I guess, make enough money. I mean, why are you having all these kids if you can't afford them? So his wife is working part-time and he's downstairs. Now this man is a weird individual. Now, I went down one day and this man, Jim Mastrino, had taken, this was his thing, he would take Hershey's Kisses out of the tin foil. They have those little wrappers, and he put a handful of Hershey's Kisses in his hand. Then he'd take his hand and put it underneath the lamp, and all the chocolate would melt in his hand and run down his arm. And I would ask him for help with homework, and he'd look at me, licking his hand, his arm filled with melted chocolate, and he was just too busy to go over that homework. So it's interesting. The reason why I reference that is it's folklore in the Mastrino home that I didn't show an interest in going to school. Well, that's not necessarily true. It's just that I didn't have any resources if I was interested. So I started to shift my life into music, weight training, sports, and just getting the hell out of there. Another story, possibly. So one night when Jimmy and I were in bed, I was on the top bunk, and Jimmy and I were speaking. We weren't supposed to be talking. Remember, guys, it's wrong to talk at night with your brother. So I saw Jimmy was still talking. I couldn't tell him to be quiet, and I could see from the light down in the living room this stretched shadow of my dad's silhouette creeping up the side of the stairs. We had this old house. If you walked in the center of the stair steps, it would creak, but if you step to the side, you could kind of, ping pong it and make it up the stairs. Well, sometimes if you held onto the rail, you could just go up slowly on one side, and I could see him doing that. This is a man who is probably in his maybe early 30s, maybe late 20s. I'll say early 30s. Yeah, early 30s, because we were like maybe 6 or 7 at this point, maybe 8. And he comes up the stairs. Now, Jimmy didn't hear him. And now it's time for the old man just boom, boom, boom on Jimmy's body. Beating my brother up where I can feel his body being thrown against the wall from underneath the bunk bed. I'm hearing my brother's bones being thrown against the wall. The drywall, the wall reverberates up to the top bunk. I'm there. I don't know where to go. I hide my head underneath the blankets. And then what comes now next is like these haymakers. Boom, boom, boom. And so the old man breaks my eardrum. So now I can't hear. So I'm deaf out of my left ear. I cannot hear. I cannot hear out of my ear. And to this day, when I get tired, my eardrum still vibrates. It flaps. It feels like a helicopter's landing. I'll actually notice that, I'm being tired and my eardrum, it's like that. So to this day, at almost 50 years old, we get to celebrate the legacy of Jim Mastrino of damaging my hearing to a point where as I get older, as when I get tired, the moving parts of my anatomy from being pounded as a child from Jim, they don't work correctly. But don't worry about me. I want you to enjoy the gifts that you have around me. Remember, those gifts are all from me. Look at your children. Look at your wives. Look at your homes. Look at the ring on your wife's finger. That is from myself. And I'm happy you have it. I'm happy you have it. There's a reason why I'm happy. I'm happy because there's no way in hell that any of you guys could go the distance with the beatings that I took. But hey, let's just not end there. Let's not end there. So there was an interesting time. So of course, I'm in the hospital getting a checkup, or the doctor's office, and a doctor says to me, "Hey, what happened to your ear?" And my parents don't even know this. And I tried to calculate this. I thought if I tell him, I would watch some TV shows, some after-school specials where the kid, told on his parents, and that sort of, hellfire that would rain down if you narked on your parents. Well, I wasn't going to be that guy. So I remember the doctor knew and I knew. We both knew what had happened at home. And it was pretty rough. I was just a kid. And I remember the doctor gave me a hug because he couldn't do anything without my information, without my admission that I was getting beatings at home. And, he gave me a hug. I'll never forget, the lab coat was very starched. And, it was interesting. I hadn't really had a hug from an adult, excuse me. I mean, I had them from teachers from time to time, but not from an adult that really genuinely cared. It was very sad at the same time because I was able to understand what that, you don't have to be related to love another human being, what that was like. Shortly thereafter, I was back in the car and back in the mix again. So that was a short-lived moment. So anyways, this guy is just a piece, we're celebrating Jim's life and he's a piece of work, And so there was a time when he wanted me to eat worms in my food. He would never have enough money to bring food home for us. So we had old spoiled cans of food for lunch ready to go. Now, I don't know where my mother was that day, but Jim was going to cook us lunch. And when I looked at the food, it had worms moving in the food. Now, my dad was super stressed out. And I said, "Hey, Dad, whatever you say." He's like, "Eat your food. Eat it. I don't want to hear it. You're going to eat that food. I don't care if there's worms in it or not. You're going to eat it." And I ate those worms. I ate those worms for you guys. I ate those worms for your kids, for your wives. I ate those worms for all of you. And I ate those worms and I took those hits. So then, shortly thereafter, Jimmy was in trouble. And it was time for him to get a beat down. And it was just Jimmy, Andy, and myself, and just us guys at the home. I don't know where my mother was. And I don't know, Jimmy did something wrong, I guess, as kids do. I don't know, maybe he made a mistake, as humans do. And there is a battle ensuing in the floor. My brother was maybe 11 years old. Jimmy was 11 years old. He was pretty strong. He was, he's a kid. I mean, I think kids, can run quick and, have an amount of strength, but not against a 30-year-old man. And I remember, because I never went to the ground with my dad. I mean, it was just stationary hits. My dad would, just get me when I wasn't looking, but I never really, had the ground game going on. And Jimmy was in a fight for his life, actually. And I'll never forget seeing seeing Jim, the man we're celebrating today, just beating him on the ground and just hitting him and slamming his body into the kitchen floor. And there's Andy crying. Andy's crying. And Andy was a real beautiful kid as a kid. He has beautiful hair, these little round cheeks, and I'm feeding him his food. And And Andy's crying, and I want to cry, but someone's got to keep it together. And I knew if Andy drew attention to us, him not eating his food, we were next. And I'll never forget, kind of like the spoon, as that was my phone. I'm taking the spoon and I'm just kind of going up, the food was coming out of his mouth. So I, to scoop it up. And his tears were going in the food. And I always thought I'll never forget that. And his tears were filling up the spoon that was full of this just garbage food that I guess, were eating. All we ate was sugar and just processed garbage bullshit food. And I remember I was scooping that food into Andy's mouth, and he figured it out, and he was trying to keep it together, and he was crying, he was like whimpering, and I just was stuffing his mouth with the food to keep him from like really making an audible sound of crying. And I didn't know what to do. I wasn't big enough to help my brother that was getting the shit kicked out of him, and I wasn't as much of a young kid as Andy was. And so I was in the middle, so I had to feed. I didn't have to, I chose to feed Andy. And he was a good boy. He was eating his food, understanding that, telling me it with his eyes and his tears, keep the food coming. Because if we don't do our thing, if Andy and I didn't do our thing, that Jim Mastrino, who we're celebrating today, was going to get us next. So that was never a good thing. And but Jim Mastrino, who we're celebrating today, he needed someone to beat up. He needed someone to put his hands on. He needed a child, just bop bop bop. He needed that. He needed that punching bag, that human being, that child that he could bruise and beat. So let's go even further into the mix. I was maybe 6 or 7 at the time, and I got in a fight with Jay DeLisi, good kid. I didn't get in a fight with him. I pushed him down. I was told not to do anything, but I did. And I came home, and I was in trouble. And so my dad, Jim, who we're celebrating today, Jim is a celebration of life. He is a celebration of life. He's amazing. He's an amazing human being. His wisdom was to teach me a lesson, to take me out in front of 816 North Kenilworth. We had a black mailbox. It was very hot in the summer. Very hot. It's hot any day, in the middle of the day, from the sun. And my friends were there because they followed me back. We got in this little scrap. And my dad wasn't happy about it. And he took off all my clothes. He put my hands on this hot metal mailbox and started whipping me. I was naked in front of my friends. I was probably like 8, 9 years old, naked. I couldn't have been that old because I was small, maybe 7 or 8. And he just was whipping me and beating me with his hands. I think he had a belt too, but it just hitting me over and over. And it was like my mid back, my lower back, and my butt, my lower legs. And I was just annihilated. I was humiliated. I was annihilated. I was destroyed on that front lawn. I was destroyed as a human. And I was bleeding. And so I came in the house. It was probably the first time I felt exhaustion. Exhaustion from not exerting force or running or lifting anything or playing a game outside. I was exhausted from maintaining consciousness. I was exhausted from shifting the pain that was happening with the racing confusion of wondering why it was happening, with the embarrassment of my friends seeing me naked, and knowing this is all coming. This is not from a stranger. This is not from an enemy. This is from my dad. And it was, I told you not to touch him. I told you. Yeah, you told me, and I made a mistake. I was 6. I was 7 years old. I was 8 years old. I made a mistake. And the punishment for that mistake is one-sided physical combat with someone 10 times my size. So yeah, Joey, you're living the life, man. You're living the life, going to college, breaking in cars, stealing shit, getting your criminal record expunged. You didn't do any of this. So this before you're born, Joey. This before you're born, Tim. And you guys are sitting there, celebrating the lives. You guys are doing the right thing. You're being good boys, real good husbands, real good parents. Knowing half the story, choosing to know only half the story, and then knowing that you're also a garbage human as well with a criminal background, never enduring what some of us brothers went through, and then you have an opinion to divide us. But it doesn't end there, because you probably got married in a lovely church. I think that's what the video is about. I saw a copy of that video. I couldn't even stomach it. You guys are traveling to another country to celebrate Tim's marriage to a woman of his dream. That woman, Tim, you're welcome. I'm really happy you married the girl of your dreams. That's another gift from myself. That's a gift because you got to live at home, how many years? Never paid rent, didn't move out. It's a little bit different when you guys can experiment with your lives and not have any, fallout if you don't succeed. Well, try, from, 2.5 years old, 2 years old, with the beatdowns, and see how you do, and then get out in your ass at 17. Let's see how you do. Let's see how you fare, But anyways, let's continue. So again, you got married in a church, right? The Catholic church, right? Well, we went to St. Charles Borromeo, and because I was so beaten and I was bleeding through my clothes, after I put my Sunday clothes on, if I were to bend at the hips or like bend to sit down and all the other acrobatics you do in church, kneeling, sitting, standing, turning to your neighbor, shaking hands, being humiliated if you don't put enough money in the pot, because remember, St. Charles had colored envelopes, and if you didn't put the right color in, you looked like, a second-class citizen. The whole just humiliation of it all. Well, add this to the mix. Because I couldn't bend over, because my clothes, I would bleed through my clothes, the idea was, Jim thought it was a good idea that I would lay across my mother and my brothers in church. So everyone else is sitting, standing, and I laid on my stomach over my mom and my brother's laps. Why was that? Not because I was tired, not because it's because I couldn't bend my body because I was bleeding. My skin was broken open underneath my clothes. That's what happened, And there's many stories like this, and I will share. This is kind of interesting, Jim and I started to have some investment time together, because remember, he's an amazing person, and we're celebrating his life today. And so what Jim's idea was for me to come up with a few $1,000s when I was like 17. Maybe I was after the military, I forget. But I did build an extra walled out section of the third open space of their garage back in 816 North Kenilworth. And that added value to the home, and shortly after that, I gave him that money and I hung the drywall with him. He bounced me out of the house, so he ended up selling that house, added value. No money, no money's ever going to come my way, which is fine. That's not what this celebration of life is about. I wanted to kind of shift to that time because I got a little older, and I remember there was a time where a lot of my brother's friends were taking swings at their dads, and I remember saying I never want to be that guy, and this was an interesting time. So because we couldn't afford to go to Immaculate Conception High School, I paid for my own high school by being in the work-study program, but my grades suffered. My grades suffered terribly, but I was a football player, so I was passed enough, and it just is amazing. So the beatings, not enough time to study in school, and then to clean Jack Lewis's toilet, and just the embarrassment of it all, and never having a counselor or anyone ask, you know, at 15 or 16 or 17, I just decided to join the military. Thankfully, at the time, my older brother was sending me cassette tapes, little handwritten notes in there. This is like back in the late 80s. Really cool quality cassette tapes. And I would look forward to that music and the little note that was inside. And I would go up in my bedroom, and over the years, probably 15 to 17, I started to get rid of everything. I did not have a bed. That was my choice. There was no room for it. I just had my weights, and I had my drum set. And these are things that I earned. These were not gifts. These were not anything supported from my parents. My dad didn't buy any of these things for me, and that's okay. That's not even life. I mean, I worked on the weekends, and I remember one of the, well, these are a couple more hits. So I was working at Our Kitchen Restaurant. I did a deal with, and again, we're celebrating Jim's life. It's not about me. We're celebrating Jim's life. Remember, this is Jim's legacy. Jim wanted me to tell you this, guys. This is, remember, let's not lose focus. This is not about me. Jim Mastrino, he's with us in spirit, you know, and he wanted me to tell you this message. And so when I worked at Our Kitchen Restaurant, I did a just kind of a wholesale deal with the people that would bring the steaks, and I would work, and I asked my managers, the owners of the company, Linda Orange and Andy Mosier. I still remember them. They're great bosses. It taught me a lot about hard work, and the money you earn, you can use it to enhance your life. So I started buying my own steaks, and I would buy 7 steaks a week. And because we had no money, those steaks were being served to my brothers. Now, this is to you. You guys were eating this food. Joey, Tim, Andy, Terry, you guys were all eating this food. And don't mistake my tonality. I'm just mentioning your names. It's not like you're I hold it against you that you're eating my food. So I remember there was a little bit of a challenge at the home front. So now, you know, the parents are yelling, and Jim comes in the house, and again, I just was like leaning against the couch, standing my ground, and say, like, what am I supposed to eat? If you want me to be this great football player, you know, and I'm supposed to train because I'm smaller than everyone else because, you know, maybe somebody was smoking while I was still like being built, like the first 9 months of life, probably shouldn't be smoking. The reason why I'm so small in height is because I was like the only brother that was that my mom smoked with while I was in utero, if you will. It's not a problem. I've talked to Kathleen about it. We're over it. But you know, you don't really have a good shake at bat when you have no way out through life other than physical opportunities, and your physical strength it depends on how those opportunities are going to turn out. And that food was very important to me. Weight training, being strong, these things were important to me. And if my brothers are eating my food because my parents, Jim Mastrino, wasn't managing the money, so I spoke up, and I wasn't happy about it. And I was just like, hey, you know, how can I be successful if this sort of nonsense going on? You know, all my food was gone from the refrigerator. I was a boy. I was 15 years old, 16 years old. And of course, I wasn't looking, and, you know, Jim, we're celebrating your life, Jim. You know, what lovely memory. And right again, I wasn't looking. See, these sorts of things always happen. There's a theme, and it took me like 16 years to figure it out. And I was standing my ground, and again, boom! Don't talk back to your mother, boom! Always when I'm not looking. Always in my skull. Always in my ear. Never when we're straight off with each other. And these beatings over the many, many years have really turned me into someone who, in this moment, I get to celebrate this man. We get to celebrate him together. We're in this together. I want to thank you for coming to this presentation, because now you get to know that it's not about websites or who did what or who's making what video or who's posting what online. Many decades ago, before many of you existed, before many of you, you know, one of us was taking the hits. And I remember I was in my room. I already had signed up for the military. I don't even know what this guy was about. And it was a very sad time, because I had a girlfriend I was very in love with, you know, And it's interesting how that works out, huh, guys? Interesting, huh? And all of you know who Katie is. You all know who Katie is. I think recently, sadly, her parents passed away, and I don't understand why my parents are reaching out to console those children. The whole reason Katie didn't stay with me is because I didn't have a college degree and I didn't have any money. Only two types of people joined the military: the dumb and the poor. I had no money, enlisted in the military, I should say. And, so you guys, with all your college degrees, it's fantastic. You got that gift from me, and I'm glad you're using it. I'm glad those degrees attracted the girls of your dreams. I'm glad it afforded you the rings that you could put on their hands. And then perhaps even deeper, having the kids that you've created with them. Those are gifts for myself. I want you to have them. Don't thank me, because Jim is telling me to let you know about those gifts, that you can take those gifts from me. Those are from me. Your entire lives are gifts from myself. Jim wants you to, it's not me telling you this. Jim wants you to know that. He's not here. He told me to tell you. And as I was I use my voice for a living. That's not good. Push it this hard. But anyways, I was 17, all signed up for the military. My parents couldn't sign me up fast enough. Now, little did I know that I'm leaving at 17, and they're hiring, or they're getting a 17-year-old foreign exchange student to move my room. They specifically, Jim told me, you need to go into military, because if you don't, your brothers won't survive. This is the message I'm bringing to you today. None of you guys would have survived. This is true. I mean, unless Jim was lying, we don't know. He's not with us, and he never spoke of it in all of these years. So the message that he gave to me, he said, hey, Anthem, when I'm gone, tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. And the truth is this, but maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for the truth to be discussed, because he's with us in spirit. See, a lot of people talk shit after someone leaves this planet. And Jim told me to share these details about his legacy. But if you really cared, you could actually take this information and maybe reach out, say a prayer. Maybe Jim will answer you in your prayers. Maybe he'll come to you as a vision. Maybe you could walk right up to him. I don't know. But I was getting ready for the military. I had a couple weeks left. I was at home, and I don't know what. Well, there was a lot going on at the time. My mother was cutting me open with her diamond ring. I bled a lot as a kid, and Kathleen, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna. It's just context. It's true, and you're with us, so I'll go easy. But I was bleeding a lot as a kid. I was always cut up. I was always bleeding somewhere in the bathroom. I learned a lot about hydrogen peroxide, to keep infections away. Because my skin was always broken open. And, come on, I'm just thinking about Kate, she was a great girl, and how could she stay with me? I mean, I was an absolute mess. But it's okay. That mess was really, that punching bag, that foundation really turned out to be this rock, because none of you guys would have had any of the things you own today or possess, or the people in your lives, if I didn't take those hits. It is true. It's not my opinion. Jim told me this. Jim told me that if he couldn't beat myself, if he couldn't eject me from the family, if I couldn't go in the military, all of you would have suffered. These are not my words. Jim's legacy, he wants you to know this. And I remember I was in my little bedroom, and Jim came up, opened the door, and I think I was doing all right back then. I was a strong safety, football. I'm trying to think of myself as a kid. I was able to do my push-ups and sit-ups and all those things, and but I was ready for the military. And one of the things that Jimmy told me is, you got to get ready to run, you got to do the thing in basic training, and here we go. And those things served me, for when I was deployed, even later in life. To this day, I still don't have a bed. I sleep on the floor. I wake up. I hit the gym, because there's a reason for that, and I'll share it in a moment. Well, actually, I'll share it right now. The reason why I train still the reason why I sleep on the floor is, as a boy, I hoped someone would save me from Jim. And that man never came. It's our duty as men now to become the men we would hope would have saved us when we needed them the most. So to me, not only am I the man that I need to be for myself, to fulfill my duty as a husband, as a parent of animals, but it's my duty to be successful for myself. And from that mindset, it allowed me the repercussive ability to sustain all those hits for all of you guys. And I remember when Jim came in the room, he opened the door and gave me one bop right in the center of my chest. And I remember nothing happened. I just stood there and I walked closer to him, and I just shut the door. And he walked out. 2 weeks later, I was on a bus, and here we are. I mean, I talked to him, in those times, but all I've learned in that time is that the very brothers that went on to have families are resentful of the fact that I've reacted to the actions of Jim Mastrino, his legacy that we're celebrating today. And, I have a little bit of contact with Andy. I don't have any other contact with anyone else, really. A text every now from certain somebody. But Joey and Tim, remember, you're probably angry watching this video, but don't be angry, because the best way that you can live life separate from obligation or where you owe people for your past is by letting go of that. And you guys have enjoyed all the benefits made possible by yours truly. And the best part about today is that we get to celebrate Jim's legacy, dividing the brothers, beating some of his children, and almost killing me as a human. We get to celebrate that today. There's many, many times where I lose an animal or another life setback. I'm almost 50 years old. It's not a smooth road. And when you're alone, you do think about sad things. But the best part about being alone is it's no different than when I was alone. I was 13 or 15 sleeping on the floor, knowing that the only way out of this bad situation is through it. And if it means extra push-ups, if it means more weight on the bar, then bring it. But Joe and Tim, your dad wants you to know that everything in your lives is because of me. It's not my opinion, guys. He wants you to know your wives, your cars, your homes, your jobs, your peace of mind, your health, your wellness, your money, your kids, everything is because of me. It's not me saying that. It's Jim. And Jim wanted me to tell you today, as we celebrate the life of Jim, and he wanted you to know that. So if you made it this far, and you give a shit, I highly doubt any of you will challenge this to me directly. And of course you can't. To Jim, because he's gone. See, because that's what people do in this family. They wait till the person dies, or the grumble. But I've never been anything but consistent. I've known this truth about Jim and his legacy, and all of you are okay with that. You are okay with a man that has never paid his debts back, has never figured out how to make money, who has failed in his duty to protect his family, protect his wife, has harmed his children. And people that abuse children either are imprisoned or executed. And for some reason, this guy, we're celebrating his life today, you forgive him. So all of you that support this man's life and celebrate it are celebrating pure evil. And that's the life we get to celebrate today. A life of evil, selfishness, zero success, violence, and a self-centeredness that I've never met in anyone else in our lives. And then you are all benefiting from it. So this is your legacy as well. So this video is not, this presentation is not going anywhere. And your wives and your children and all the people you know that think, might say, oh, this guy, Anthem's a horrible person. I'm just telling you the truth. And if the truth makes me more of a horrible person than a man who's broken his own children, made them bleed, and broken their organs and body parts, make them eat worms, spit in their eyes, starve them, scare them, abuse them, all those words, if I ended on a high note, I wouldn't be mentioning those because they're very victim words. But you have to acknowledge the truth, and the truth is those things that defines Jim's legacy, and that is what you celebrate in every Christmas, every holiday, every birthday, or every whatever event that you invited that person. Remember, you're celebrating this man's legacy, and because you're denying the truth, you're part of that evil. So, and evil's an operative word. One could say it's evil to speak. Well, I have a right to speak. And you have a right to challenge it. And at the end in that meeting of challenging one's truth, if you can't come out the other side with some counter truth, not emotion, facts that I'm wrong, then you just have to settle and know that in life, everything good in your life, every benefit, every girl of your dreams that you married, every mortgage that you opened up, every house you turned the key and that you own the title to, all of your kids' victories, that's all because of me. Those are gifts for myself, and I'm happy you have them. And Jim wants you to know that. Jim's legacy is, he wants you to know that the abundance in your life is because of me. It's because he chose me. He chose me, not you. He didn't choose you. He chose me to take the hits. He said, which one of my 6 sons could I beat the most? Which ones can I use and abuse and send away in hope they never speak about it? It's not any of you. So now that he's no longer with us and his spirit is with us, the spirit is going to be just kind of blended in with the truth. And the truth is this history that I just shared with you. It's a violent one. It's a deceptive one. It's a criminal one. And the next event, or if you ever thought about a great experience with that man, remember you're sitting next to a criminal, because had somebody seen him back in 1977 or 1982 putting his hand on children, and if he got caught, he would have a criminal record, just like you have, Joey. But some people get their records expunged. Some people are never held accountable. And then there's those of us that have kind of dealt with it. People like yourselves. I'm no different, Joey, than the girls that you broke into their cars and stole their stuff. People wake up, they have a right to their peace of mind and their property, and not to be violated, whether it's physically or mentally. And I haven't seen a video from you admitting fault. I mean, you just went with it. And that extra money that Jim had was because of me. So you can thank me when you're ready for your criminal record being expunged. And Tim, you can thank me for Joey feeling, entitled enough to just travel the planet to take videos of you guys, based on the abundance that you both have enjoyed, because of me. So don't be sad and don't be mad. Just be at peace with the truth, because that's what Jim wanted. That's why Yeah, I'm really thankful that we gathered here today in the holiness of this church and environment, this culture of humanism, that we say goodbye to our departed. And this departed now gets to know what it's going to sound like when it's real. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. The website's back up. This video's not going anywhere, because why should we hide the truth? You know, not everyone gets to expunge their background, right, Joey? Not everybody. It costs money to expunge the background. So let's go with that. If somebody doesn't like this, you're welcome to expunge it. There's probably going to be a price for it, but I don't really want money. I want the truth out there. Oh, Anthem, why do you make websites? Because I feel better. Because after all the beatings and the worms and the bleeding and the spit in my eyes and the decades of stupidness, I just feel better. So hope you guys enjoy the truth. Let's end on a high note, celebrating the life of Jim. And those of you that you know who you are, that are just garbage humans, make sure your wives know who you are as well, okay? Because you know they married someone who's not really who they are. Your wives actually married me. That's remember, your wives are basically my wives, because they didn't. If they knew that you were dividing the family, would any real, like, really loving and objective woman want to marry a person that wants to divide their family? Probably not. But you probably had them away from the truth and kind of finessed it enough to sell it as something that other than it is. So the reality is, I actually kept your families together by taking the hits. So your wives actually married me. Your children are actually my kids. And that's, you can call that crazy or not, because I have a feeling if your wives sat and watched this video and made it this far and said, holy shit, we didn't know you and Tim were dividing the family. You don't want to talk to this guy. The reason why he doesn't talk to anyone in the family is because he's reactionary to the inaccountability of Jim. You guys have divided the family. What real woman would marry or stay with a man who's about division and lies and being kind of a criminal too, Joe? How does that feel? How does that feel? You gonna make a video about that, Joey? You gonna make a video about how, you know, you got away with something and your dad paid it to go away? Do you have any videos about me that parallel that lifestyle? The only thing that people say about me is I got a big mouth. But, you know, there's a lot to be said about the truth. That's why we're celebrating it today. So Joey, feel free to use this video. You know, it's downloadable. It's the truth. You know, don't edit it. You know, you want to edit the truth out, you know, because, you know, that's never a good thing. But, you know, I know you guys are just superstars. You're just awesome people that have enjoyed a life. You know, I wouldn't say it's based on hard work. It's based on luck. And you guys got lucky. So the best part about being lucky is knowing where that luck came from. And Jim wanted me to tell you that today. Jim's legacy is to let you know that his second oldest son has given his other sons the abundance that they think they deserve, and the lifestyles, the homes, the cars, the wives, and the children that have no idea that you guys supported the division of this family. And so now it's out there. Now it's the truth. Now you guys won't do anything about it. It's not what this video, or I'm sorry, this presentation's about. This video is about one thing. Men are born, and so are evil people. Evil people come from somewhere. And we happen to be related to one. But he's not here anymore. So that's the good news. And so we don't have to talk. You can be upset, but the truth is the truth. And if you're really upset, that means it's really, really true. Because if it wasn't, you would just say, I'm just making it all up. But the best part is, wink, wink, you can still go ask that somebody. You can maybe say a prayer, and I think Jim will respond. There's plenty of content here, plenty of questions that have come up. And if you don't ask questions and you don't want to resolve it, it means you're just sitting back enjoying all the things that I gave you. Because those things come from Jim beating me, taking from me, harming me as a young person, so he could give the extra to you guys. And he told me that. Anthem, if you don't do this, your brothers will suffer. So I marched out. I stepped up. I said, put the nails in. I said, let's do it. Mount Calvary, let's do this thing. And in and out of consciousness, I remembered you guys. And I remember, Jimmy knows where we were, exactly when we were sitting with the Frenette's table in the kitchen, when we heard the three of you guys were on your way. And we felt very uncomfortable as boys. But we loved you enough to protect you. And let me get rid of this here. And let me get rid of this here. I don't know how to do boom, boom, boom. Excellent. Saved by the bell. So don't be angry. You can say a prayer, and I think Jim will answer your prayers if you care enough to seek the truth. If the truth is bothering you, then that's exactly why. It's because it's true. And tell all of your wives and kids that dad said hello, that their husband said hello. Because really, nobody marries someone who's a fraud, and someone who supports, dividing their family. And that's what I understand you guys have been about. So just wanted to celebrate the life and times of Jim Mastrino while highlighting those that have benefited from his legacy. And his legacy is one of division, violence, and deception. And I'm living proof. But the best part about that is I could give a shit about what anyone thinks, because I made it to the other side with no compromise, and I didn't need any of you to get to the other side. You guys all needed each other, and that's kind of crazy, because what you really needed, what you really gravitated towards, was someone that abuses children. And you guys made it. You made it to the other side because the one that was taking all the hits opened up all the doors for you. There's just no getting around it. So enjoy. I'll just say it again. All of the brothers that are younger than me, with homes and cars and wives and all these things, and a couple of you have agreed, I want you to enjoy those gifts. They're from me. Don't feel you have to give me anything back in return. Those are gifts from me to you. Remember, your wives married you because I opened the door for them. They didn't marry you because of you. Your wives married you because they knew there was some sort of man in the mix, and that man was me. That man is me. Your kids get to enjoy a certain lifestyle because of me. The homes that you have, it's because of me. All the abundance, money in the bank, cars, trips, it's because of me. All of you. And since I haven't heard from you ever, there's really no way that you can contest it, because it's true. Because not a single one of you have taken the hits that I have. And Jim required me to take those so you could have everything you have today. It's true. So let's end on that note. That's the truth. That's Jim's legacy. And I just think it's poetic. So be great.